Good evening. My name is Nichelle Wilson, Training and Development Program Manager with the City of Charlotte Community Engagement Division. And I'm so happy that you all joined us tonight. We are here to discuss how to increase participation in our neighborhood organizations. So this training is being recorded, but I do want you all to feel free to engage with the information that's being shared tonight. We want to take the opportunity to learn from one another. I do have a presentation that I will share with you all. I will also send you all a PDF copy of this presentation afterwards, just so that you can have that in your toolkit. So, and I'm sure people will join. So if I look like I'm looking all over the place, and I am, because I'm admitting people as we are going through the presentation. So I'm not sure if any of you all joined us in April when we did this presentation, but it's the same information. But again, you all will make the conversation more rich. So at any point, if you have questions or if you have examples that you want to share, please feel free to do so. We will be together for about an hour tonight. And we are going to start off with our agenda. So I did the welcome. Once again, happy to have you all here. We'll look at some research very briefly, and then we'll talk about some strategies to increase participation. We'll talk about how to overcome barriers, and then we can have an official question and answer session at the end. Okay. And just admitting people. All right. So first, what we want to do is we just want to look at what are some factors that impact the decision to join a group. So I know some of you all might have neighborhood organizations, such as an association or a coalition. Others of you might have an HOA. So HOAs are involuntary organizations, where neighborhood associations and coalitions are typically voluntary in nature. So regardless of the type of organization that you have, people choose to participate or not participate, and there's reasons for that. And so some of those reasons, or the top reason, will be whether they think the group can accomplish the goals. And so whether you have a voluntary or involuntary organization, you have goals. And so as a resident of your neighborhood, they want to ensure that you are working towards whatever goals have been set, whether it's by your bylaws, whatever you have put in place to improve that neighborhood. So that's the top reason why people will think about joining a group, is they want to make sure they're a part of something that can have some successes. They're a part of something that's moving the needle, okay? The next one would be whether the group engages in productive discussion about something important to you. So we all have meetings. We've all been to meetings that we feel like could have been emails. So we want to avoid that when we're having our meetings. We want to make sure that there's a set agenda, that you're discussing things that impact the neighbors, impact the residents, and you're giving them an opportunity to provide their input. Okay. And then I'll just go over the next one, which is how much time is required to participate in the group. So just working with groups for the past 3 years or so, neighborhood groups, what I've noticed is that there's always the faithful few. There are a few people that do all the work, spend a ton of time. And so when you're trying to recruit people to be a part of that group, they see that and they're just like, wow, I would love to engage. However, I have limited time. So that's something that you have to consider when you're thinking about recruitment strategies, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Okay. Like I said, I will send you this presentation, so we're not going to go through each of the slides, especially this research section, but you'll have it at, for further use. Okay. So next, how people have participated in the past 30 days. So there's different levels of participation, and so the most often people will attend a meeting or an event. That is the most frequent way that people will participate in a group is by attending a meeting, attending an event. And so what does that mean? That means that you have to make sure that you are publicizing your events, making sure that people are aware of when you're having and hosting events. So they have the option to participate. Next would be they volunteer their time. So for some people, for example, so a cleanup would be something that they could volunteer to participate in, and they would get, they would have that opportunity to feel like they're contributing to the organization. So what this is really saying is that you need to diversify the types of opportunities that people have to participate in your neighborhood organization. The third one is contribute money to the group. Of course, again, if it's an involuntary organization such as a HOA, they don't really have a choice. So, I guess they could not, and there'll be consequences for that. But that is the third way that people tend to reason why people participate in groups. And the last one I think is important. They want to take a leadership role in a group. And so when you're looking at your groups, of course, you have your typical positions on your board, but if you have other leadership opportunities, maybe creating committees and subcommittees that will give people opportunities for leadership, that's always something that you'd want to consider. Okay. And we'll talk more about this when we talk about recruitment. Okay. And so we kind of covered this. All right, so now we're going to get into the meat. So the 6 R's of participation, those 6 R's of participation are recognition, respect, role, relationship, reward, and result. And so these are examples of why people participate in groups. So we'll break these down. Recognition. We've always, for the most part, not everybody, but we want to be a part of a group and we want to be recognized for our contributions to that group. So when you have neighborhood organizations and you have volunteers, how often do you recognize those volunteers? How often do you celebrate them for the contributions that they've made? Being recognized is important to a lot of people, so we want to keep that in mind when we are leading these neighborhood organizations. Next is respect. What people are looking for in, whether it's at work, whether it's in a friend group or in their family, they want to feel respected. They want to build respect within all of the groups that they're a part of. And so are you respecting the people that are contributing their time and their efforts to your neighborhood organization if you are one of the leaders in those organizations? Next is role. People like to feel needed and appreciated. So this goes kind of back to recognition. I know we've all heard of love languages and things like that, but this kind of speaks to that. It's like, I want to know that you need me to be a part of this. I want to know that you appreciate the contributions that I'm making towards this organization. And you want to make sure when you're looking at roles that you're clear on people's roles. And we'll talk about that some more a little bit later as well. Relationship. Neighborhood organizations draw us into a wider context of community relationships, which encourage accountability, mutual support, and responsibility. And so your neighborhood organization, it's a community, and it's a group of people that can learn together and grow together and support one another. So the opportunities that you provide for neighborhood leaders to build relationship is important. Okay. Reward is the next one. Organization and coalitions keep members and attract new ones when the rewards of membership outweigh the costs. So we all know that we have limited time, limited resources, but if I'm going to spend my time with this neighborhood organization, what am I getting back? What am I gaining from this? I know I'm giving. What am I gaining? How is this beneficial to me to be a part of this neighborhood organization? And last is results. People always want to be a part of the winning team. So as you all are planning things and you guys are setting goals and things like that, you want to make sure that you're communicating with residents when you win. You want to show them, hey, we said that we were going to do 3 cleanups this year and we did 4. We said that we were going to repave this parking lot and we did it. You want to, however small they are, you want to show that this neighborhood organization we're doing what we said we were going to do, and that we are moving the dial to improve the quality of life for all residents in our neighborhood. Okay, so those are the 6 R's of participation. Okay. So next we're going to talk, well, does anybody have any questions or any comments about what we just talked about? I'll go back. And you guys can come off mute if you have something to say.
Nichelle, Will Tabor here, North Druid Hills Community Association. You really hit the nail on the head when you talked about the cleanup, community engagements. Mm-hmm. We are getting ready to sponsor our 4th on September the 17th. Mm-hmm. And in those engagements, we have about 50 or 55 people. A great majority come from other groups such as the Boys and Girl Scouts. We have a military fraternity that participates, and now we're picking up a couple of churches that participate. Mm-hmm. So those type of engagements really draw a crowd because they are seeing the value of the cleanup in the communities. So we encourage that, and we have picked up at the last event we had like Movie Out. We picked up 4 new members, and then through our members contacting others, we picked up 2 new members this week just by passing the word on.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. C. Yes, that's a prime example. And also what that did by including not just people in your community, but by including churches and the Boys and Girls Club or Boy Scouts or other organizations, you're extending that network. So the people in your community getting the opportunity to meet other people and community leaders. And that's a great opportunity to build relationships. So thank you for that example, Dr. T. All right, so now we're going to go into strategy. Strategy, plan, recruit, involve. All right, so when we are talking about planning, most of you have probably heard of WIIFM, what's in it for, to get people to participate. If you're trying to get new board members or just increase participation in meetings, you have to be very, very clear about what is in it for that resident. Why is being involved in your organization important? What does it do for the organization? What opportunities does it provide for me? People want to know that their time is going to be respected, and that you are that you care about the time that they're trying to commit to your organization. So it's really important to think about people's time, talent, and treasures of all of your neighbors. And then you want to also make sure that you plan for fun. So yes, especially with an HOA, there is business that needs to be done. There are things that need to be taken care of, but you also want to make sure that you have opportunities to engage socially, where neighbors can just come and let their hair down, get to know each other, and build those solid relationships with one another. Okay. You also want to make sure that you have clear and concise mission and set goals. So whether you're a neighborhood association or whether you're an HOA, you should still have a mission. What are you setting out to do? What are your goals for that organization? How does your organization define success? So a lot of times, organizations look to the city to say, hey, what makes us a successful organization? We can't say that because it's different. The needs of one neighborhood and one community is going to be totally different than the needs of another community. So it would be unfair for us to say, hey, we see that you would be successful by doing X, Y, and Z. We don't live in those neighborhoods. We don't know what your residents need. And so we lean on you all to say, hey, this is what success looks like for us. And this is how you can come alongside us and help us to accomplish our goals. So we are there as a partner with you all to support you all in defining success for yourselves. So keep that in mind. So if you don't have a mission, if you don't have goals for your organization, that is probably a first step that you all should take. And if you have not revisited that mission or revisited those goals in a while, that's probably something that you need to do with your board. Okay. Next are some, there's the rule of three. And so we all know that we are very busy and that, we are competing with a lot of different things for people's attention. So the rule of three is a communication strategy that says that it is best to communicate with people in three different ways in order for them to hear your message. So some examples of that could be that you will send out an email blast for an event that's coming up. You may also post that event on Facebook. And then you may also, you can put a flyer or something on people's doors. And so that's three different ways that you communicated the same event. But that is basically what people need in order for it to kind of register and say, hey, this is something important. This is something that I don't want to miss. And the next one, the rule of seven, is a marketing strategy. And this says that the message needs to be heard by your neighbors at least 7 different times for them to remember it and act on it. And so here, what we're saying is plan. If you are going to have an event, try to plan that event as far in the future as you can, so you have that opportunity to remind people that this event is coming up. Okay, if you can even do a calendar of events. So if there are certain things, like if you all want to do a cleanup once a month, put that on a calendar, pick your dates, have it set. In addition to that, a lot of neighborhoods participate in National Night Out. That is always it is like the second Tuesday of August. That doesn't change. You can put that on your calendar. And so if you have a calendar, then people always know, hey, if I want to participate in something, especially your meetings, if you have your meetings, make sure they're, the second Thursday of every month or something that's consistent, so people don't have to think about it. And so if you can have a calendar, even if it's like, you can do it once a quarter, or you can do it every 6 months, but have something that people can go to and they can see what is happening on a regular basis. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about know your numbers. And so it's important in your communities, especially now, because our communities are changing very quickly. And it's important to know who's in your neighborhood. It's important to understand what is going on in your neighborhood. And so we have a tool called Quality of Life Explorer. And this particular tool allows you to pull data related to your neighborhood. So it's not just your specific neighborhood. What we do is it's an area. So it's your neighborhood and the surrounding area. And what we do is we pull a lot of different resources, and we're able to come up with some data that will show you things, for example, of the median income, median age in your neighborhood, test scores in your neighborhood, voting in your neighborhood, different things like that will help you to understand, who are my neighbors? What do we need? So when you're planning and you're thinking about things and different ways to engage, you can utilize that data to say, hey, what we're showing is that a lot of our students in our neighborhood have high absenteeism. What can you do to support your neighborhood schools to help to alleviate that problem? So there's a lot of different ways that you all can use the data that's provided on the Quality of Life Explorer, and I'll send you the link to that. And if you have any questions about how to use that, you can reach out to us and we can assist you with that. Okay. Next, this one is very important. As I stated, neighborhoods are changing. And so fostering diversity and inclusiveness. So a healthy neighborhood association serves the interests and concerns of all people within the neighborhood. And so some things that you might want to ask yourself is, does your association demonstrate effective teamwork, recognizing the needs, interests, and skills of its residents? So we had the board retreat a few weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, and I have participants to do a survey. And on that survey, one of the questions is your board representative of your neighborhood? And that's really important, because your board, they're your decision makers, they're your leaders, and you want that board to resemble your neighborhood. It's important to have representation on your board, and not just race. So it's race, it's religion, economic status, different cultures. There's so many different things, but you want your board to be reflective of the people that live in your neighborhood. Okay, another question that you can ask is, are you involving all individuals in your organization? And so an example of that, you come up with a newsletter and you send that newsletter out quarterly to let people know what's going on in your organization. But you have a large Latinx community in your neighborhood, but the newsletter only goes out in English. And so that's an opportunity for you all to say, hey, I want to recognize and celebrate the diversity in my neighborhood. So we are going to partner with someone to create a Spanish version of our newsletter. So that's just one example. All right, this is way too many words on the slide, but I'm just going to go through a couple of these ways to be intentional. So listen to all of your residents. All of us have biases. We come into our workplaces, we come into the groups that we serve in, we come into a lot of different places, and we all have biases. And so if you're a neighborhood leader, it's so important to recognize your own biases and how that impacts how you lead. That's very important, because what you want to do is your best to put those to the side and listen and recognize the needs of all of your residents. And let's see, we talked about having interpretation services. So if you have a meeting, maybe you can have someone that can translate. You might have people that might need a sign language interpreter. There are different things. I can put you all in connection with, I think it's Disability Resources. And they talk to neighborhood organizations about how they can be more inclusive in the things that they do, whether it's a meeting, whether it's communications and things like that. We actually have a training on our Training on Demand site that has to do with that. So I'll send that to you all when I send you the copy of the presentation. Next, trust is essential. And so with trust, I feel like it's very important that you're transparent. So trust and transparency also go hand in hand. You want to build trust with your neighbors. They need to know that you are not out to get them per se, that you are trying to improve everyone's quality of life. Everything that's done in the neighborhoods impacts everyone. So you want to make sure that your neighbors feel as though you are a good representation of what they want to see happen in their neighborhood. Okay, I'm not going to go through all these. Okay, all right, we'll move on. All right, so how do you add value? How does your neighborhood organization add value to the neighborhood and its members? So one, by having a great neighborhood, a great organization that runs smoothly, you're protecting the value of their homes. Obviously, our homes are one of our largest investments, and everyone, for the most part, would like that investment to be protected as much as possible. So that's one thing that the neighborhood organization does. You also enhance and protect the quality of life in the neighborhood. So that is your goal, to improve, just to make things better, to recognize what's needed and to work towards achieving goals that will help to improve the quality of life in the neighborhood. A neighborhood organization also helps to strengthen the bond between neighbors. And so again, that's providing opportunities for neighbors to get to know each other and engage with one another. The more you know your neighbors, the more likely it is that you have a safer community. Because there's communication, you can identify when things are not right in your neighborhood. You can build a relationship with your CMPD community coordinator. You can create a neighborhood watch program. All of those things will benefit your neighborhood. Building neighborhood connectivity, unity, and pride by hosting activities and events. We have a lot of neighborhoods that have some rich history, and neighborhoods are recognizing the importance of holding on to that history and sharing that with residents so they can have pride in where they live. And so that's another value that neighborhood organizations add. providing a unified voice when you are identifying, addressing, and resolving neighborhood issues and implementing neighborhood initiatives. So for example, having a neighborhood organizations are able to apply if they're eligible for our neighborhood matching grant. As an individual, you can't do that, but you can do that as a representative of your neighborhood organization to help support the efforts that you're trying to do in your community. And next, communicating and partnering with the city of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County to ensure a livable and sustainable neighborhood. Okay. All right, who to recruit? So oftentimes we try to go for low-hanging fruit. We'll go for the person, they're always at the meetings, they're easy, they're there. It's like, yes, I want to do this work, I want to do this work. And sometimes we avoid those people because they're probably the more vocal people, the people that you feel might be a little bit more challenging, but don't avoid those people, because when you have that vocal person that's super passionate about something, give them something to do. Give them a job and say, hey, you're super passionate about the fact that teenagers are hanging out at the pool, after hours. So why not partner with an organization to come in and provide some activities for kids so we can make sure that we are keeping them safe and that they're not just hanging out. So it's like when you have that person, don't run from them, don't avoid them, but see how you can engage that vocal person. Business professionals, you want to make sure with your board especially that you are recruiting people that will contribute to the greater good of that organization. So you might have someone that is really skilled in marketing and you need that assistance. You might have a great writer and that person can help with a newsletter. But get to know the people in your neighborhood, because everyone has a skill. Everyone possesses some type of skill. They have great networks, and you can tap into that by building relationships with the people that are in your neighborhood. Older adults and retirees. And so here, what you'll have is availability. So typically, older adults, retirees, they're at home and they would love to engage in some type of activity that will have some type of contribution, and this contribution will benefit them as well. So reach out to your older adults, retirees, and then lastly, your youth. And I think a lot of neighborhood organizations overlook the youth and not think about them when they're thinking about projects and goals and defining success, but also what can they contribute, whether it's computer skills, technology, how to engage with people. They're great in terms of volunteering. A lot of these young people need volunteer hours for their school. And so when you're having community events, it's important to them. And then if you think about it, if you have parents with younger kids and you're having these meetings, these activities that don't include their children, they're less likely to participate. So what can you do to create opportunities for young people? In a previous retreat that we had, one neighborhood decided that they were going to add a young person, a high school person, to their board because they wanted to know, they wanted that voice there. What are we missing when it comes to engaging our youth? And so I thought that was a really great idea to get them involved like that. And then at the end of the day, we are all going to get older, and these are going to be the people that are taking over our communities. So why not engage them early so they understand the importance of being a part of a neighborhood organization? Okay. Again, if y'all have any questions, any comments, feel free to jump in. So perception is key. The first impression is often the last impression. So how do you welcome new neighbors to your community? And I'm going to pose that to the group. If someone wants to come off mute, you have a new family that moves into your neighborhood. What do you do to engage them?
Nichelle, this is Will again. We've had 3 new neighbors to move in. The first thing we did was sent them a greeting card and welcome them to the community. And we were able to secure their phone numbers and email addresses and all of that. So now we're able to communicate with them and include them in all of our engagements.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else?
Scary. Can you guys hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Okay. So we've tried to do we've tried to come and knock on people's doors and have a whole welcome committee. But half the folks, we see them one time, we get their information and we never hear from them again. They don't answer the door. They'll put up a fence. So, yeah, I would just like to know what else to do,
Just curious, are they renters or are they homeowners?
Actually, these have been homeowners, just because we do have a restrictive covenant.
Yes.
So these have been homeowners. And at first they seem really excited to want to engage, and I work at Home Depot. We get a discount on, gardening materials, and we can help with that cleanup or help with that project. And everyone is, non-responsive. And, even when we have town hall meetings to give everyone an update, and yes, some people show up on Zoom, but now we're trying to have, in-person engagement, and it's a lot lower than expected, and especially now that we have more homeowners over renters. So it's been a challenge.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And unfortunately, we're moving into an age where people are not as interested in participating in certain things. And so what I would say is, like, you have to continue to do the things that you do despite the lack of response, because you don't know when, they might decide, hey, this is important to me. And typically that'll be when there's an issue. when there's an issue that directly impacts them, that'll probably be when they're more likely to engage. But continue your efforts to say, I'm still going to invite you to meetings. I'm still going to invite you to activities, and I still want you to participate. So that way they will always know that they're welcome to do so, but it is up to them to actually take that initiative to do it. And so that's the other piece of, celebrating those successes and sharing those out, because again, people don't want to waste their time. And so if they're just like, hey, and I know they probably haven't even given your meetings or anything a chance to even know, hey, we're doing good work over here. But, keeping people informed of what you do is critical. So they know that, yes, my neighborhood is doing this. And again, knowing who your neighbors are. So if that particular family has young kids, and, creating opportunities for them, just to say, we see you, we welcome you, and here are some opportunities for you to engage with us. And we're here when you're ready to do so.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. When we talk about meetings, it's important for you to keep those meetings as short as possible. So an hour and a half max. You want to start and end on time. So again, respecting people's time. And I know a lot of people have, we're forced to go to Zoom. We're trying to go back in person. Some people are even doing hybrid meetings. So you all have to decide what works best for you in terms of your organization, but taking into consideration that people have gotten comfortable with Zoom meetings. So maybe do a hybrid, because some people do prefer to be in person. So if you have the ability, you might want to host a hybrid meeting so you can just have that engagement and people can engage in the way that's most comfortable for them. Because some people are comfortable coming out post-pandemic, as some people would say, but some people aren't. And so it's not that they don't want to engage, they don't feel comfortable being in a crowd of people. And so a hybrid model might be a great way to get past that hurdle. And establish some rules with your meetings just to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to speak that wants to, and no one is taking over the meeting. Okay. I talked about this a little bit. Share your successes. So promote the association successes. Let people know what your goals are. Let them know the progress that you're making towards your goals. And ask active neighbors to talk about the things that you're doing. So while you might not have a relationship with the new family that moved in, Someone across the street might. And maybe they can be that advocate to say, hey, you had concerns about this, and we just talked about that in our meeting, and this is what we're doing now to address that issue. So hopefully the people that are active in your neighborhood are cheerleaders for the work that you're doing, and that they will go out and speak your praises to the people that might not be as engaged. Okay. Next is listen. So practice active listening. And listen to your neighbors and demonstrate your understanding of what they're saying. It's a great way to build rapport and relationships. So I'll go back to that person that, always has something negative to say or always has a complaint about something. And as soon as you see them approach, you're like, oh, here they go again, and it's like, we have to try not to do that, as hard as it is. And I know it's human. But they still want to be heard. And as a leader in your community, you have to kind of push away those thoughts of, I don't want to deal with this person, to show up with them, practice your active listening skills so they can feel heard. And again, work with them to try to find a solution versus dismissing them. Okay. And I know that conflict comes up in neighborhood organizations, within boards and things like that. And if that's the case, there is the city has a community relations department that works with neighborhoods on conflict resolution. So if it gets to that point, then there's still some resources available to you. But hopefully you all, if there are conflicts that come up in your neighborhood organization, you all can work that out between yourselves. But if not, we can do some mediation to help you all with larger conflicts. I just want to throw that out there. Okay, recruiting strategies. So be welcoming and inclusive. Consider the welcome committee, and maybe think about different ways to welcome the neighbors. Get some input from people. Get some input from your neighbors. Did you have a new neighbor that did respond to your efforts to welcome them? Get their thoughts. Ask people that, I'll give you an example. I live in Huntersville, not Charlotte, but when I moved into my neighborhood, my first communication was to cut my grass. And I'm like, wow, I've been here for 2 weeks. There was no welcome, no how you doing, no welcome to the neighborhood. It was like, hey, cut your grass or we'll find you. And I'm like, so I didn't feel welcomed into my neighborhood. So it's just, not everything is going to work for everyone, but it's important to make the effort. Okay. Improve communication. Communication is key with your neighborhood organizations. You have to keep people informed. You need people to know what's going on. There's a lot of construction. There's a lot of zoning changes. There's a lot of different things that are going on in the city, right? And so you want people to be aware of those things. You need people to come to the table with you. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have multiple ways to communicate. And so I think it was Dr. T that said that they were able to collect contact information for people that were new to their neighborhood or people that volunteer that live in your neighborhood. Get that contact information. Some people, prefer emails. Some people want texts. It just depends. Everyone has a different preference, but that's why it's important to diversify the ways that you communicate. So social media is big for a lot of people. I would say that if you choose to have a social media, that you understand the best ways to use each of the platforms. So for example, Facebook is good for notifications, to share out information. Instagram to me is better for celebratory things. So you guys had a great, cookout for the summer. You have an annual summer cookout and you want to share the good pictures and stuff that you took just to show the engagement with your neighborhood. Instagram would be great for that. And if you guys have questions about social media, how to set those things up, we do have a workshop on our Training on Demand page that talks about social media as well. Some neighborhood organizations choose to have a website, and you can do a newsletter, e-newsletter. Having like a text chain that will go out. There's many different ways to communicate. And if you don't have a communication strategy for your neighborhood, I would highly recommend that you create one. Okay. Your outreach toolbox. So outreach is different than engagement. Outreach is about getting information to people. So there are different ways that you can do that. You can have public or block meetings. You can do door knocking, petition drives. You can do flyers, surveys, tablings, or have one-on-ones. So outreach is just like, I'm here. I want you all to know what we're doing. We want you to be a part of it. Okay, so again, I just really recommend have your strategies in place. You know, you don't want to wait until you have to give out information to figure out what your outreach strategy is. So when you're having your board meetings, what's our communication strategy? How are we going to do outreach to our neighbors? Go ahead and have those strategies in place. So when it's time to use them, it's just plug and play. Involve. So this is the next step in our recruitment strategy. So to get people involved, events and general socializing. And I'm going to say start there. So you want to get people feeling good. You want to get people communicating with one another. You want to get people excited about your neighborhood. So hosting an event, we did an interview with the Coolwood neighborhood. They would have movie nights where they would, you know, just rent a screen from the community Toolbox. And they would just all gather together with their lawn chairs and have a movie night. And so that was inclusive for the entire family, which is the next one. And that just brought people together. And it was a great turnout. It was a great event for them. And you can do soft recruitment there. You can collect information, contact information for people at these events. So some of these events you can use for multiple things. Give them a small task. So, you know, we talked about the busybody, assign them a task. We talked about young people, give them a task. Do they want to come to every meeting that you have? Probably not. But if you say, hey, you're really great at Instagram, do you mind contributing to our Instagram page? You know, because when we are thinking about engaging people to participate, we often want them to do what we need, and we never take into consideration what are their strengths, what would they enjoy doing. And I think that's something that's important to consider so people won't get burnt out and abandon their role and things like that. So yes, there might be some things that have to be done, but when you're assigning people, you know, you need a secretary, but you are asking someone to be a secretary that hates writing and hates taking notes and things like that. That's not a good fit. You want your treasurer to be somewhat versed in money management, right? So we want to look at people's strengths when we're thinking about giving them a task, putting them on a committee, asking them to fulfill a leadership role. Okay, neighborhood projects and grants. That's another way. Again, cleanup is an easy example, but that's just another way to get people engaged. Keep a positive attitude. I commend all of you as neighborhood leaders. When I first started working with the city in this capacity, it just amazed me the amount of work that you all do as neighborhood leaders. And so I know it gets frustrating. I know, you know, it's not an easy job, but it's so important to keep a positive attitude, because what you don't want to do is alienate the people that live in your neighborhood. I'm not saying people please, but I'm saying that you want to do your best to not alienate them. You might not always be able to do what they ask you to do, but how you deliver your messages is so important. Again, create simple communication tools, ask questions and seek input from your neighbors, whether that's a survey, whether that's just a quick chat. You might be outside watering your lawn, your neighbors across the street. Engage in conversation, build those relationships, be generous with recognition and thanks. And so we talked about that one before. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some common barriers to participation. So again, lack of time. And so with this one, that's where we talked about it's so important to define roles for people. And so if I'm asking you to be the treasurer, I'm going to tell you that the treasurer's role is required to meet once a month We expect that you'll spend 2 to 3 hours a week making sure that our financials are in order. Be upfront with whatever it is that you're asking someone to do, so then they can assess whether or not they have the time and the capacity to fulfill those roles. Okay, you never want to say, hey, we just need you to do X, and here they are every weekend, doing something for the neighborhood organization that they didn't expect to do. Okay, recognizing disability and impairment, and so making sure that you take those things into consideration. So if you're going to host a block party, can everyone participate fully? Are you thinking about different things that impact people with different abilities? And that's very important to create an inclusive environment. Okay, distrust. And so I know things change in neighborhood organizations, and they might have had a previous president that never shared any information, that made decisions by themselves, was just a lone wolf. And so now the leadership has changed, but the perception is still the same. So it's important that you have to work past that. So the way that you do that is by being transparent. Make sure that you're sharing things, make sure that you're getting input. This is not a dictatorship. Like, this is a group effort, and this is about all of us. So being accountable, being transparent, being honest, and being inviting are ways that you can combat distrust within your neighborhood organization. Digital capability, this goes back to our communication rules and our marketing rules. Not everyone has access to the internet. Not everyone is technologically savvy. So we want to make sure that not everything is online, that, some people still like something in their hands. Some people prefer email. There's different things. So just think about access, and that's on the other side. Think about internet access, think about language capabilities and things like that when you are trying to improve participation in your neighborhood. Financial strain. Oftentimes, people aren't participating in things because they have to maybe work multiple jobs and they just don't have the capacity. So maybe you have something that they can do at home. Maybe it's like, we need this newsletter to go out to this email list. Can you send this out every 2 weeks? That's so simple, but it's one less thing off your plate, but yet they still feel like they're contributing in the capacity in which they can. And then education level. You're sending out, you want to make sure that at least, that it's written probably no more than like an 8th grade level. We don't know people's backgrounds. We don't know their abilities, and we want to make sure that we are inclusive. So those are just some things to consider as common barriers to participation. Okay. So I think this kind of speaks to what Carrie was talking about, overcoming apathy among homeowners. So we know that some people, they buy their home, they live in their home, but they have absolutely zero interest in engaging in anything that's going on in their neighborhood. And so the first suggestion is to do some self-reflection. How are we presenting ourselves? How are we communicating? How are we perceived by our neighbors? Are there things that we need to make adjustments to? So always start with yourself. And when I say self, I mean the organization. And think about what things that you can do to improve relationships with apathetic homeowners. So those are just some things to think about. Open a dialogue with your community. And this, again, is just about building relationships. So understanding that your efforts may not be successful the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time, but as you build relationships and you continue to show that your neighborhood is moving the dial and that you are thinking about all residents and you are doing things to improve the community, hopefully that will allow and encourage people to become more engaged with the work that you're doing. answer questions publicly. So we all know that we get some uncomfortable questions. We get some questions that we feel like, I don't know that I necessarily want to answer this in front of everyone. But again, this goes back to transparency and accountability, especially if you're in a HOA. There's nothing that should be a surprise to homeowners in your organization. Okay. Be open about community goals. We talked about this one. Share those goals with the community, because again, you never know who's in your community that might be able to lend a hand. And again, when you are able to share successes, it just boosts overall morale for the neighborhood leaders as well as residents. Acknowledge the value homeowners offer. So we want to be respectful of everyone. We want to be inclusive. We want to make sure that people feel respected and they're honored as a homeowner in your community. That's really important. Send community updates. So a lot of this is redundant, but again, what was our strategy? It was put it in front of people at least 7 times. So send community updates, share your good news, share the things that are coming that might impact the community that you might need feedback on. Make it to where if people want to participate, they have no question as to how they can engage with you all. And we talked about welcoming new residents. Okay, so recovering after COVID, manage your board's engagement expectations. So I know engagement has shifted a lot. Some neighborhoods were struggling with engagement prior to COVID, and it improved a little bit now that we're able to meet in person again. Some people are still struggling with that, but you have to understand that everyone is adjusting. A lot of people feel overwhelmed, and there's a lot of things competing for people's time. So, you know, maybe you're looking at 20% attendance at your meetings, and your goal shouldn't be 50% in the next 6 months. Maybe it should be 30% in the next 6 months. So be realistic about the goals that you're setting for your board and your expectations on getting people engaged with your community. Develop an engagement plan. So we talked about a communication strategy. We talked about an outreach plan, and now this is about engagement. And so how are you going to engage with your neighbors? And be proactive about that. Be intentional about how you're going to choose to engage with your neighbors. Because again, this is all about building relationships, and the stronger relationships that you have, the more you'll see your participation and your engagement turn around. Okay, reset and re-engage. So I feel like, you know, this is a great time for organizations to just do some reflection to see what's working with our organization, what has worked, what has worked in the past. What things are we still struggling with? Do we need to shift how we're doing certain things, certain processes, how we communicate, how we meet, whatever expectations that we have? Are there things that need to change? Have we been operating with just 4 people and now we need to maybe have an events committee, and maybe we need to have a volunteer recruitment committee? You know, things like that. Like, what do you need to do as a board to improve and put yourselves in a better position? And then again, be consistent. And so, like I said, some of your efforts, you know, you might not see the fruit from that for a while, but be consistent. So your neighbors will always know that this group came into the neighborhood. There was a welcome effort. We know that we meet, you know, once a month on Tuesdays at this place, that it's like clockwork. They know if they want to engage, they know how to. That's very important. Okay. So I think we have, let's see, talked about most of these. Offer a diverse set of activities. You know, think about, and that goes back to knowing who's in your neighborhood. You know, if you have a more senior population, what's the best way to engage your seniors? You know, if you have people with young families, what's the best way to engage those people? If you have business professionals, maybe you need to have a social or a sip and paint or something like that. Be creative on how you engage with your neighbors. Give everyone a chance to participate. So when you have openings, share them. You know, I know sometimes it's like, okay, well, I know Susie will be good for this role. You know, try not to do that. Share those opportunities because you don't know the gems that you might have in your neighborhood that can contribute to the growth of your organization. Recognize your volunteers often. We talked about that. Celebrate people. People often don't have a lot of wins in their life. So the small wins that they do have, recognize those people for that. Understanding that if someone is committing to your organization, that's a lot. That's time that they can be spending with their family, resting, lots of different things. So people are going to give their time, recognize them for the work that they're doing. Use technology, strengthen your brand. So this one kind of goes into helping people develop pride for where they live. Okay, so strengthening your brand can be a lot of different things. Again, we just had the board retreat at one of our neighborhoods. They all had t-shirts with their neighborhood name on it, signage in the neighborhood. Just do certain things where people can be proud of where they live. Okay, so that is all the suggestions. Did anyone have any questions before I talk about the resources that we have available to you all?
I have one, you may address this in your closing. We have a significant number of Hispanic residents, and we have tried to communicate with them, indicating that we had interpreters that would speak Spanish fluently to get them engaged. And they still seem to be very sheltered and isolated. I'm not sure how to get them involved.
Is there one person that's a little bit more receptive than others? I'm just thinking maybe you can connect with the one individual, and then by people seeing that relationship and seeing that that person has a trust built with you all, that will allow them to understand that this is a space where they are welcomed.
We have one neighbor that lives on the street where we have the largest number of Hispanic speaking people. She socializes with them. However, she has not been able to get them to participate in activities that we have. And
can she get feedback from them to see why? Maybe.
One of the things is, I guess they're just afraid to participate. We haven't established trust. We have not had communications with them. So I think that's the most difficult hurdle to get over. Yeah, if you know, if that person is willing to be that kind of go-between, just so you guys can understand what it is. And is it that, you know, is it a thing of trust? And again, that's not something that you can just wave a magic wand and fix. That's going to develop over time. Is it a fact that they don't feel like they're welcomed? So that could be, you know, if you have an event, what type of music are you playing? What kind of foods are you serving? Are you just aware of whether or not you're making different cultures feel welcome to the events that you're having? So I would definitely say if that person is willing to kind of pick their brain to see, because it is important that everyone is included, because you want their voice heard and you want them to have a seat at the table when you all are making decisions that affect your neighborhood. Okay, the other thing is there's a huge population of renters. So and there are a number of vacant homes also. So trying to get the renters to participate has been a struggle also.
And I know you all have done cleanups. Are you doing social activities?
Oh, yeah.
What I would say.
Oh, yes, by all means. You know, we've had a Christmas social. We had a community engagement where they had Easter egg roll hunt. So that brought out parents and also children. We did movie night out. We're working on our fourth community cleanup. We have done back to school drives. We've done, securing winter coats for the neighbors, children, and also bicycles for Christmas. We've done a host of things. They are very receptive of what we do, but after they get whatever service we provide, we don't get any participation from them.
Well, then I also think for renters, it's important to define what roles they can have within your organization. So for example, if you're not a HOA, but if you were an HOA, for example, if I'm a renter, me coming to a meeting, me voting, I'm not able to do those things. So maybe even making it clear, what do you need from them? What do you want from them in terms of, their ability to be a part of your association? Just defining it so they understand that, yes, we know that you're a renter, but this is how you still add value to what we're doing. Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question. This is Kendra Macon from president of the Belmont Community Association.
Yes.
And I kind of want to piggyback off of Willie, because within our boundaries, we do have a couple of apartment buildings, if you will, that are, most of it's renters. And so I want to go back to that, what the WIFM, do you have maybe something that we could, like an example or something to give to them, like what's in it for them for being a part of the association or just engaging in some of the events?
Have you all, are they like regular apartment complexes with management on site?
There's one new one that does have management on site. I'm not sure about the other one, Hawthorne Mills. I'm not sure about Hawthorne Mills, but I do know Optimist. God, what is that? It's right here on North Davison. They just built it right on the corner, North Davison and Belmont. Excuse me. They do have like a leasing office down on their main level, but also too, based on our boundaries, they're kind of in Optimist Park, but we would actually like to kind of bring Optimist Park under the wing of Belmont, just because they really don't have any representation over there. I don't even know if they have an active board, but that would be the closest one that does have a leasing office.
Okay. So the only reason why I asked is maybe to start there to see if you can build relationships there and do like combined events with the neighborhood and the apartment complex and try to get people out that way to then share what are the benefits of your association versus, just kind of inviting them. So if maybe they're getting communication and they see that it's a partnership with their actual apartment, they might be more likely to engage with that.
Got you. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Hi, this is Linda.
Yes.
I have a question in regards to, we again are more of an area association, not a homeowners association. But we do have a lot of homeowner associations in our area. And we've tried very hard to engage, like the president, each of the association, just to let them know what we're doing, what we're working on. But it always feels, I don't know if it is, but it seems like they feel like we're trying to sell them something. And we're not selling you, we're just trying to inform you. And I don't know how to reach out and make that known, I guess.
Are you like a coalition?
It's called Prosperity Village Area Association, and we just do kind of like a watchdog of the area when there's construction. We do events as well. We have movie nights and food truck rallies, and we have trash pickups. And I'm jealous of Willie over there. Says he has 50. I'm lucky if I can get 10 people to show up, even though they all complain about how much trash we have. And we give back things. You know, we have a movie theater in our area, and they've given us free movie passes. So if you come to one of our trash pickups, you know, or you help out at one of our food events to pick up and put chairs out, we give you a movie pass, you know. So it's like a little bit of a reward, but we can't seem to get the HOAs to say, yeah, we'll let everyone in our area know. And again, you know, some of those are rentals. So I don't know if, you know, maybe that's, I don't know.
Have you outlined what do you want from them?
Yeah, when we send out an email, we say we just want you to be, you know, able to inform your residents within your HOA of the area's, you know, activities, or if a zoning board's coming up and maybe some of your people don't know about it because they only tell you within, you know, 300 feet or something like that from the actual zoning that's being happening. So they just, I don't know, they just don't respond.
They don't respond.
And I try really hard to not make it sound like it's a sales pitch. It's just information, you know?
Yeah, and so we have an issue of trust with that for whatever reason. And so I guess what I'm just thinking is just being very clear. It's are you just wanting them to participate socially? Do you need their voice, their numbers when there are different things that are going on in the city that you need support for, you know, and so whatever reason that you feel like there is distrust, to address those head on when you're communicating with them. And again, you're not going to get them all. Keep sending your invites and things like that, and you'll get some, you know, and then hopefully the momentum will grow. But I would just say whatever you feel like could possibly be an issue where they are not trusting you, or trusting what the organization is trying to do, address those things head on and consistently communicate those things. This is why we feel like it's valuable for you all to be a part of this organization. This is what we're trying to see happen. This is how we're strengthened with numbers when it comes to things that are going on in the city as the city changes and things like that. If that's the reason why you want them to be a part of the organization, just be very clear and direct in that. It's definitely a what's in it for me situation when it comes to that. And then also just to recognize that a lot of these smaller boards are struggling themselves. So it's you know, it could be that, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but let's say that you have an issue with crime in your area. And instead of it being a social that you put together, maybe you invite someone from CMPD to come and speak about how to, you know, alleviate some of the crime issues in your neighborhood. And that is something that impacts everyone in that area. So it might say, hey, we're going to take the load off of you. We know that crime is an issue for all of us. You don't have to organize this. We've organized it, and we just want you to invite your people, you know.
Thanks. And one other thing, when you were saying that, we had a Tree Charlotte, you know, we had a special one in one of the neighborhoods nearby, and he reached out and he said, well, who do you have for contacts? I said, I didn't even have anyone in your neighborhood because I couldn't get anyone to stop. But it was what's in it for me right now. He's saying, you help us get the word out. And maybe I should respond to that way too, to say, we'll help you get the word out of something about your neighborhood, you know. And we have different forms of media, whether it's Facebook, Nextdoor, Instagram, emails. All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just one more suggestion. We are very fortunate to have a police officer who attends all of our Zoom meetings. So call your precinct where you have a police presence and ask one of the police officers to join your meetings. And they keep us abreast of all of the crime statistics, the number of emergency calls, how we had a complaint about, you know, cars parking on both sides of the street at the convenience store. They put up signs for us, only park on one side, and they've really enforced that. So get the presence of your police officers involved in your association. And I mean, he comes on every Zoom meeting that we have if he's in town. And if he's away, he does have a substitute to represent CMPD.
We have one that comes to our food truck. He comes each time, it's the same officer. And he's very good about walking around and talking to people.
All right, get him to join. Do you have Zoom meetings?
We do, but our board is like 6 people. It's not, it's not engaging the community. It's really hard to get the community to
show up.
get involved. And like you're saying, we have car break-ins in many neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And where does it happen? It happens on next door. Make sure you lock your cars.
Mm-hmm.
But we could do something like you're saying, get the police officer to come and talk to folks.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's definitely, I'm going to just, take a leap and say that probably the organizations that you're reaching out to are also struggling with engagement in their organization. So now you want to add something else to my plate. And so if you are directly addressing a need that they have, a complaint that they might have in their neighborhood, that might be a great way to get them on board. So you're lifting something off of their shoulders by some of the things that you're doing.
And Linda, too, I want to add, again, piggybacking off of Willie. So over here in Belmont, we have literally, there is this corner where there is just so much activity, illegal activity. And I have just really cultivated a really good relationship with our community safety coordinator. He's at all of our, all the events that we do in a community. He's at all of the community meetings. And even if there's like something dire that needs to happen, I'm that person, that very vocal person. So that is me. So I have even, asked the supervisor of the Eastway division to even come out and be at our meetings as well if there's like something dire has happened in the community, because we've had shootings over here. And after one major shooting that we had, I was really upset about the response that, the police had to it. And I sent a very lengthy email, and I asked all of the supervisors, chief of police, all of them to come out. The chief of police didn't come, but the supervisor of the Eastway division did. And it gave an opportunity for the community to speak with them one-on-one. They even do roll calls over here. That's another thing. But that's all. And the roll call, what that is at the beginning of their shift, before they change, from their morning shift to their night shift or mid shift, everyone who's coming onto that shift, they meet in one place. And so now you have 30 officers in one area. You talked about, being car break-ins, if people start seeing more of that police present in your community, it's going to be less likely to come over there and be a target for break-ins and things of that nature. So we host quite a few roll calls over here. We may do, 2 or 3 a month, and again, that's just, and since we started doing that, it really has calmed down the activity that we have on this one corner. And it really has helped, so that I have seen a difference in that, and people are feeling more comfortable coming out and actually enjoying the spaces and the amenities in the community now that they see more of a police presence out here.
Awesome. Thank you, Kendra.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are a little over. I'm going to go through these resources, and I'm going to send you all links to this information. So if you don't know, you all have a service area team. There's a manager, there's a liaison, and these people are put in place through community engagement to help support whatever you're doing in your neighborhood. So they are definitely those people that you would reach out to if you have concerns about different things that are going on in the city. If you're trying to do a neighborhood matching grant, we are kind of just that, they're kind of just the connection to city resources. They are really, really the lifeblood of the work that we do, because they are the ones that are in direct communication with you guys on a more regular basis. And they can point you in the direction where you need to go for whatever it is that you're trying to get accomplished. So if you don't know who your service area team is, I'll send a link out so you all can figure out who that is and start to build that relationship with those individuals. I mentioned training on demand a few times. And so as I stated, we typically record trainings. Thank you, COVID. And we created this training on demand page so you guys can go back and watch a lot of the trainings that we've had. So I'll send you a link definitely to our social media page. Our social media that we had. There's a lot of HOA and neighborhood association related trainings. We've done some partnerships with a lawyer to kind of talk about bylaws and risk management and different things for neighborhood associations. So there's some good stuff on the training on demand page. So I definitely encourage you all to go out there. The neighborhood contact list, if you're not a part of that, it's a subscription list where you will be the first to know what's going on in the city. So a lot of different departments in the city utilize that list. Me specifically, I send out a training and engagement newsletter every other week to just let you know of trainings like this, engagement opportunities and things that are going on that you would want to know about. So this goes to our conversation about creating opportunities for people to be informed. So need a speaker is an opportunity for you to have someone come out from local governments, the county and the city, to talk about topics. And so you can put a request in for someone. You might have a community event and you want someone to do a table there with information. You can put that request through Need a Speaker. The neighborhood matching grant, I mentioned that a few times. This is based on eligibility. So if your neighborhood is eligible for the neighborhood matching grant, this is a great opportunity to do improvements in your neighborhood. There are a ton of different projects that you can do with this particular grant. And it's a great way to just improve quality of life. So events, sign toppers, t-shirts, some neighborhood improvements we can assist with. So that is something to look into if you're eligible, and eligibility requirements are on our website. And last, we've given a huge shout out to cleanups. And so one of our big programs is Keep Charlotte Beautiful, and our Adopt a City Street program. So this is an opportunity. Yes, this is an opportunity for you to get your neighbors together and beautify it and keep your communities clean. And so that is just a great, another great program to engage with as well. We provide supplies for you all, and we also arrange to pick up the trash once you've collected it. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Earlier, you said that if you have that busybody type of person, that they might be good as a secretary role. Jonathan made me secretary of Keep Charlotte Beautiful. Now I'm wondering.
I'm sure it wasn't that. But thank you. I think this is it. So if you all have questions that you can think of, feel free to email me. If you need me to get you in contact with your service area team, I'll be happy to do that. I'm actually going to probably early next week, I'll send you this presentation with all of the links that we discussed today. But again, feel free to reach out to me if there's anything that you would like to see in terms of training. We are always looking for new training topics, and we want to make sure the trainings that we do address the concerns that you have. So if there's anything that you can think of, shoot me an email. I'll see if we can develop something, because that's what we're here for. We want to make sure that we're giving you all things that will help you to be better leaders for your organization. Okay. Well, that is our time. I thank you all so very much. It was so great to have you all. Thank you all for sharing, asking questions, being engaged tonight, and hopefully you got some tips. My biggest thing would be to not get discouraged. You guys are doing great work. To keep up the work that you're doing and just be consistent in your communications and your efforts with those people that are in your neighborhoods. Okay. All right. Y'all take care. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.